What is that? It is the prince. He is coming.
He's going right for the crew!
You're muted.
Shoot, I'm muted. Dang it. Welcome, Ghouls, Ghosts, and Poltergeists to this stream. Sorry, I had this whole speech planned out, and I stupidly muted myself. Dang it. Ouch. Well, we're going to be talking about Ghouls, Ghosts, Poltergeists, spooks, and the like. Dang it. Dead air. I hate that. But anyway, welcome, Neph Champion.
And Phantom Ganon qualifies as a poltergeist.
Indeed.
Hello, everyone.
Indeed.
Phantom.
Alrighty. Yeah, I kind of maybe I should have put him in like Ghost as protagonist, but I don't know enough about Danny Phantom to comment. Maybe I'll just
Strictly speaking, I don't think he's literally a ghost. He just can phase.
Okay. So let's kind of get into the introduction and kind of define our terms. Pretty much a ghost can mean multiple things, but usually it means some kind of incorporeal entity. What the ghost actually is, for instance, like whether it's a nature spirit, whether it's a human that died, whether it's like it's even its own race of being as it is. That's up to the author. But let's kind of define our terms real quick.
Yeah.
So first off, we kind of have the idea. We have a lot of kind of like the idea of you can have a ghost as an ally, you can have a ghost as an antagonist, you can have a ghost as kind of a victim that wants their murder solved. But you have to kind of very clearly define what your rules are for what a ghost is. Like if somebody who is a ghost dies in this particular area, you have to very clearly say, okay, this place makes it so that ghosts are around, and if anybody dies, their spirit will stay here and they can't leave, and you have to clearly define your rules. Otherwise, like a lot of people around would be seeing the ghosts as opposed to like just like the main cast. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah.
It's like anything that is a dead spirit or functions as a dead spirit would tends to be labeled as a ghost. Like I think to some of all things Pokedex entries where there's one where I recall Haunter being described as from another dimension, and that's why it can go through things. So it's not actually a Pokemon who died and became a Haunter. It's a ghostly Pokemon or something like that. Though future entries would throw this all out of whack, but I stopped paying attention after Ruby and Sapphire.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have one more person. Allow me to bring in.
I am not here. You do not see me.
We'll answer that question at the end, Space Junk. We'll just keep that in mind.
Oh, are we already streaming?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're a bit late. Sorry.
You're fine. It's totally fine.
I thought it was at 1:30 MST.
We
I
just
tried-
started, so don't worry
Oh,
about
okay.
it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we just started kind of early-ish. But yeah, I think in terms of ghosts, you got a very... Yeah, I think like you can come up with a lot of really creative ideas, like The Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor does some interesting creative things. It's basically the ghosts are tied to the house in particular, but the ghosts are handled differently depending on the series you're in. Like Haunting of Bly Manor, there's kind of a more of a range. With the ghosts in Haunting of Hill House, it seems as though they're kind of just unquiet spirits roaming around that feel left out / feel alone or have the same fears and idiosyncrasies that they did in life.
I'm already seeing a gap in this presentation. What about ghosts as representations of the protagonist or some individual?
Ooh.
Yeah, we were
That'd-
thinking about ghosts as protagonists a little earlier.
Oh, yeah, I probably should have put that
Not as
there.
protagonists, as symbols almost.
Oh, okay.
Like in what way?
I don't know if I can think of a specific example, but just kind of in the case where the protagonist is facing some specific issue and the ghosts that surround him or that he sees in the background are a representation of his struggles.
I can't think of a specific example where that happens.
I think
Well,
that
yeah, I can't think of a specific
I think-
example. I'm sure it exists, and it is definitely a possibility. In such a case, they're not an antagonist, they're not a protagonist, they're not a deuteragonist, or maybe they are, could be. They're not an ally, or they could be a victim, but that's a subset, or that's an element of the ghost.
I actually think that one example might be Crimson Peak might have done this, where it seems as though these ghosts are a symbol / type of what is going to happen to the main character should she fail to accomplish her goal and figure out the mystery.
I guess the Sixth Sense could be an example in a way. It's not that the ghosts are opposing any specific force, they're more so just I guess they could be considered victims, but they're also kind of a supporting element of the child in that movie, where it's not necessarily that they're opposing anything, it's just that he sees them and they represent something. They represent basically like death or like the inevitability of death.
Now that I think of it, it seems that's kind of the kind of thing that happens in like Monster of the Week shows, where like in Ghostbusters, you'll often have enemies that just sort of force or reflect conflicts between the characters. It won't be directly, but it will be like your character's conflicts happen parallel to them, and there will be like similarities that defeating the ghost or entity or whatever helps them overcome their problems. Is that what you're thinking of?
Right, but you're thinking of it inherently as someone that helps overcome a problem.
That's more in the meta sense. It's more that the writer is making the parallel than any of the in characters.
Right, but my definition is not about any sort of like aid to the progression of the protagonist in a physical way. It's more so that they exist, and their existence defines some element of the character through the means by which they are defined.
Okay. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it is.
The existence of the ghost defines the character.
Also be aware I am in a meeting on my other laptop, so if I disappear, that's why.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
That explains the staticky background noise. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that you kind of like, there's a lot of different ways that you can do ghosts. I think one way is very much the idea of, okay, they're just a species of creature that exists in this world. Another option is they are the spirits of people who are dead. What are some like possibilities for that and how to use it?
Well, since I'm looking at definitions and things like that, one of the so-called synonyms that we're given for a ghost is a banshee, and banshees foretell let's see.
They foretell death of some
Yes.
kind.
They're an evolution of the bean sith.
Okay. The Bean Sith. That's very interesting.
Beansithe.
Okay. That's very, very interesting indeed.
Yes, that's where banshee comes from.
Okay. I like it.
So I would define maybe the Bentneck lady as a bean sith, kind of, because she's foretelling her own death because she's haunting herself. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very creepy notion, all things. It's a very creepy notion.
and there are the poltergeists, which
Okay. Ani, tell me if it is that hard. And once you get into that, yeah, and if you absolutely cannot handle it,
Right.
but these are some of the objectives, right? We need to.
Okay,
Right.
you did mute the right channel.
yeah, oops. And another would be a poltergeist, which is defined as a spirit believed to manifest its presence by rapping and other noises, and also acts of mischief, such as throwing furniture around. So, yeah.
So
Poltergeists
Ghost Jerry
are
Springer.
not nice. Not quite?
Yeah, the Jerry Springer show where they throw the chairs all over the place.
I've never watched that. So I suppose I would put the poltergeist under antagonists.
I like kind of the harmless can also be harmless. They can also be harmless, just pranksters. Like Peeves is basically just a useless prankster in a lot of ways.
At least in the first couple of books.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think the introduction's over then.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
Okay.
Let's go into kind of ghosts as victims. This one's an interesting one. Let me see.
It's also possibly the most loaded one. Where pretty
Yeah.
much all these stories behave the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically just like usually it's the ghost is something that is scary, but the thing is the ghosts are usually the victims of a terrible antagonist that's human or supernatural is usually or some kind of eldritch force is usually the case with this kind of thing.
All the red ghosts from Crimson Peak would fall into this category.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost all of them.
Which brings up questions of what are their capabilities. They have some limited amount of communication. I guess this is a bigger obstacle for this sort of story is most stories that do this don't even remotely try to justify or explain the world building of mechanically how these things work, because people get screwed over and die all the time, and it doesn't mean that every single person who got screwed over to the point of death is going to become a ghost, or maybe they are. Sometimes that will be brought up, but a lot of these stories will make it seem like a rare thing when in actuality it should be ridiculously common. It's like everybody should know a ghost if this is how the world works. They shouldn't even be rare. So you have to differentiate what makes your case so special.
Yeah, like usually it's like with Crimson Peak, they don't even try to define it. They just like, ooh, ghosts exists.
And one of the things that we were actually chatting about while watching towards the very end was it might be that the character that is your protagonist is a medium, so they encounter ghosts a lot more often than a normal person does.
And then you get the question of what makes a medium.
Yeah.
Are they trained? Is it an accident? Is it genetic? Did something happen to them and suddenly they can see spirits? Sort of a Batman scenario.
Okay. Or it could simply be that they've always been able to see ghosts.
But why not other people? What I tend to see in these sorts of things, especially in modern tellings, is that people don't believe in ghosts anymore because they're so rational and smart, and then this medium comes along and shows them all that they're actually really dumb. It's like we stop believing.
That might be part of it.
Yeah,
that might be
despite
part of
the
it.
fact that we have no shortage of mythical folklore of our own.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. One such example of that, of I suppose you could call him a medium, would be Ichigo from Bleach. His ability to see ghosts and the powers that he has is explained when we find out that his father is actually one of the Grim Reapers in a human form. So,
and also in that shonen family, you have Shaman King, where it's implied that it's genetic, and that one has to carry on certain lines. Hence, Yo's arranged marriage to Anna.
Mm-hmm. And I think like kind of like you fall into the issue of like the ghost is not a kind of a supernatural force. They are just a set of like creatures that are possibly dead, that are just dead. And usually the problem with the ghosts as victims, that falls into the problem of, oh, this story is just going to play out like X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just like I was describing with people getting screwed over and dying because of it being really common. Just as common is the stories where this happens. So you know the story, whether you have seen anything specific or can name it off the top of your head or not, simply from osmosis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Monty Python effect. Even if you haven't seen it, you have in fact seen it.
Yeah.
Monty Python's Flying Circus.
So now, as far as ghosts as victims, obviously anything that's included in the story is encompassed with, or should be encompassed within the themes of the narrative. So if we're going to use ghosts as victims, obviously the ghosts as victims should play in some way into traditionally the protagonist. So if they have no bearing on what the protagonist is doing or their goals or their motives, then we're not going to include the ghost. Or sorry, we should not include the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing in Crimson Peak. Did anybody else see the ghosts besides the protagonist?
Well, the thing is, Lucille asks, how does she know? So my guess is that the two people who live there and the people who work there can't see them. Which is why
the only person that sees them is Lucille sees Thomas at the very end.
Spoiler.
But she doesn't see any of the other ghosts. And the other ghosts are interacting with Edith. And
thank you.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why when Lucille asks her brother and her lover.
Also spoiler.
Yes.
Yeah.
That how Edith could possibly know is one of the reasons why I went, she's probably a medium.
Alabama jokes.
Sweet home Alabama.
Beat me to it by just a second.
Sweet home, or sweet home Aladale Hall.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of do a variety of things. I think Haunting of Hill House and Crimson Peak do this in the most interesting way, where actually like the ghosts are both murderers and victims in the story.
Yeah.
Where the ghosts are kind of luring people to this place because they want company, because they're kind of moldering spirits that kind of fall apart.
Mm-hmm. And if this may all tie back into what is perhaps the story of ghosts as victims, Hamlet, the source from which all of these tend to come from, ultimately.
This is true.
Can I give him a Hamlet rant?
Go for it.
So I hate Hamlet.
Okay.
I like Macbeth, and I think Romeo and Juliet is underappreciated, but Hamlet is garbage. It's trying to ride that line where, oh, is he crazy? Is he not? But it doesn't have a clear definition. Like, there's no through line. It's just he constantly switches between interactions where he actually is crazy, making highly irrational decisions, and pretending as though he's doing something crazy, like fucking with his stepfather, all these sorts of things. And it's not like there's some point where he switches. It's a constant pitter patter of switching between he is legitimately crazy and he's fucking with people. And I hate it. It's inconsistent. There's no through line.
I think it was explicitly stated that it was an act, especially with all the Ophelia shenanigans.
Yes, it is explicitly stated that it's an act. However, even after it's stated that it's an act, he does make explicitly crazy decisions, even when no one is around. So it's not as though it's all an act, which I'd be fine with. If it's all an act, or it's all crazy, or it switches from being an act to being crazy, I'd be fine. But it switches back and forth constantly, and it's very silly, and there's no ability to define when he's being a jokester and when he's being legitimately crazy. Which obviously, the to be or not to be speech is a legitimately crazy moment.
And it's made even crazier when Tommy Wiseau does it.
He's holding a dead guy's skull and pondering the nature of existence. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Possibly by our standards.
Other standards.
Shakespeare was a very morose individual.
But my point is not so much that is he crazy, is he not crazy? It's that it switches constantly between whether he is or isn't. And part of why you can tell that it's switching is that he acts crazy and acts not crazy, even when no people are around.
So becoming the mask.
Right, but he's not putting on a performance for anyone. And it constantly switches.
That's why it's called Becoming the Mask.
I would rather just complain about it.
That works too. But yeah, I think with Ghosts as Victims, like you need to kind of figure out, like, usually you'll have to have a secondary antagonist. Either it's a supernatural force or it's something else as the other ghost, because otherwise you have no story. If just it turns out, oh, the ghosts were the victims the whole time. And usually the ghosts, like, if by definition, if the ghost is a victim, that just means that the ghost, like, is enslaved or is being held against their will by something. Usually.
I don't know why people don't assume that.
There is an element of ghosts as victims, perhaps not ghosts, but ghouls, perhaps, as victims, where they are the antagonist. However, there is a story, even though they are not actually the antagonist, and that's I Am Legend. The people against whom, to whom he's hammering the stakes in, are not the monsters, the incoherent beasts. There's two separate classifications of ghoul, and one is the monster, one is not, but he's hammering stakes into both of them regardless, because he has not fully realized the difference.
Talking the book or the movie?
Obviously,
there's
the book.
Like three.
Okay.
There's like,
yeah, where it turns
like,
out he's the monster. I Am Legend refers to that.
There's
Correct.
like what, like 3 or 4 adaptations of the book at this point?
Everybody remembers
all the same movie with Will Smith, but like there's 3 different endings because the first one was fucking stupid.
I think that's it for this. Any other thoughts on this point?
Have some kind of creativity. Everybody does the ghost as a victim. Do something different. It's becoming kind of cliche.
And kind of old.
Yeah, kind of is.
And maybe turn it around, the ghost actually is the asshole.
I think Red Letter Media defined it as the boy in the wall sort of thing.
Explain.
Please?
Oh, you don't know about the boy in the wall?
No.
Not by that term.
It's basically just every time there's a haunting, it seems like 80% of the time, it's like, oh, there's a little boy who died here, and he's haunting the house. So it's the boy in the wall, because someone was killed, they're haunting the house, and it's because they're unable to move on. But every single time, it's just like, what's the mystery? Oh, there's a boy in the wall.
So sort of the been drowned is sort of a logical extension of that.
Like, oh, he was drowned. Oh, he was murdered by a serial killer. Oh, he was killed by his parents. Whatever reason he died, he's still just haunting the house. And in almost every single instance, something happens in the wall. Like, something stretches in the wall. That's a scene they really like. It's always just, there's a boy in the wall.
You mean literally in the wall, or do you mean like metaphorically? It's like
both. Almost every time there's a boy in the wall, there's actually a boy, or sorry, there's actually a ghost that like protrudes through the wall.
A boy in the animatronic.
I can't remember where it is, but it's like, it must be like episode 30 or 40 or something. It's pretty old Red Letter Media joke.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
think,
that's basically a more composed idea of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Based on
that's what it sounds like.
That sounds like, it kind of sounds like that's the idea of the devil's backbone, where the ghost is a small boy and the real bad guy is this burgeoning Nazi kid.
Devil's Backbone is an excellent beer.
I imagine it is.
Sounds like Lit Dev needs to go to a chiropractor.
Yeah, sounds like it. So have we gone over how to avoid the obstacles, or
do something different? Do anything different, please.
Well, it's a little more than do something different. I mean, it goes back to the fundamentals of storytelling, especially as far as avoiding cliches goes. It's sorry, gotta burp here a little second. As far as avoiding cliches go, you have to know what the stereotypes of the genre is and actively avoid them. Now, as far as avoiding stereotypes, is not simply a matter of subverting them, a la Ryan Johnson. It's about creating something new, as you've said. But part of that is just simply when you're presenting the idea of cause and effect, the cause and the effect have to be different. So the cause is, oh, the boy is murdered. So what does he do? He haunts the house. So you're starting with the wrong cause. And even if you want to start with the wrong with a cliche cause, the effect has to be different. It's not just simply that boy is murdered, he haunts the house. You can't simply have it that the effect is the same. So you can affect the cause and the effect. So if the effect is if the cause is the boy is murdered, the effect cannot be he haunts the house. That's the same fucking shit. Or you have to put a spin on why he's haunting the house. So, oh, the boy's haunting the house, not because, oh, he's so sad, he was murdered, he's very affected by it. Maybe it's that he haunts the house because he has a hatred for humans, or he has been in the house so long that he simply, I don't know, like he has some sort of affectation to him. So you can affect it at the cause, you can affect it at the effect, or you can affect it as to the reason why the effect has occurred. Either way, you have to recognize what has been done and figure out what's different. But there's different parts of the narrative that you can affect why it's or how it's different.
Yeah, every cause is the effect of a previous action.
Or maybe
opposite. Every effect is because of a different cause.
Excuse me. Or maybe the way he died left him trapped in the house. Or maybe something else is trapping him there.
Right, but the thing that's trapping him there is often exactly what people change. It's like, oh, he was murdered by a serial killer. Oh, he was murdered by his parents. The thing that's trapping him there, yes, can be a cause or an affectation of why he's trapped there.
Satanic
But the fact that
ritual.
he's trapped there,
You muted.
Yeah.
I think probably had a work thing, but yeah, I think with ghosts as victims, like you need to. I think usually like you can fall into two categories. You can either go with what we saw with Crimson Peak, where they're the like they're creepy initially, but they're revealed to be victims, or you can go down the route of they're always kind of reaching out to the protagonist, asking, "Please help me."
or they're victims and then they transform into more malicious as you progress.
Mm-hmm.
That's possible too.
Last thoughts, if you're trying to make something different, watch the movie Adaptation by Charlie Kaufman.
Okay.
It's basically just a meta movie about story writing, essentially.
So Leslie Vernon for Ghost Stories.
It's not about ghost stories. It's about structure in general. It's literally a movie about Charlie Kaufman, a real writer, putting himself into a movie where he is trying to adapt a book that he doesn't understand how to adapt, about a real book that he was trying to adapt and could not figure out how to adapt. It's extremely meta, but basically, as far as what I'm talking about here, is just how to, or like, it's basically almost half of it is a movie about cliches and writing in general. And it's basically like, avoid this shit, stop being pretentious, stop being, anyway, it's a good movie, watch it. It'll criticize you for all of your shitty writing habits.
That's cool.
Sounds like something.
And God help you if you use voiceover.
I award you no points, sir, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Speaking of souls,
Alrighty. So now we get into ghosts as the bad guys or as antagonists. You can do kind of a couple things with this. You can have ghosts either be active antagonists or passive. In the case of Gozer and the bad guys in the ghosts in Ghostbusters, or you can do what Bly Manor did, where they're kind of more passive antagonists. Like the Lady in the Lake is basically this ghost that kind of just rests at the bottom of the lake with this notion of like she wants her daughter to be able to have like the money, but unfortunately that led to problems because her passion led her, and kind of the weird things happening around the house led her husband to kind of be like, oh heck no, and kind of just thought it was accursed or something. So he let it dropped it to the bottom, and there she's kind of been for most of her existence. And now she just kind of like will wander the halls of Bly Manor, and will kind of like just grab anybody who gets into her way, good or evil, and will just pull them into the lake.
Because she wants the thing retrieved, or
no, it's just kind of like her personality is kind of degraded to the point where like she just, partially it's because she first killed her sister by strangling her as a ghost after her sister Mercy killed her.
Yikes.
And after that, there was just kind of a like very, and so like she just kind of like anybody who got in her way, like because like her personality degrades, she's just like, oh, like if somebody just gets in her way, she will just grab them by the throat and drag them into the
Like,
into the lake.
Ghosts as antagonists all too often turn into boy in the wall situations.
Yeah.
Really? I tend to see them turn into monster of the week or monster of the climax scenarios.
How?
It's like any Ghostbusters medium that's episodic. Those ghosts are
I don't get it.
explicitly antagonistic. And yet each one is unique, different, has its own capabilities, power sets, sometimes even personality.
Fair enough, but I'm referring to movies here, probably. So it's more so like, how do we get a ghost? Someone died. Who died? What's more tragic? It's probably a woman or a little boy. That's basically it.
a woman or a child.
Yeah, so too often it turns into a boy in the wall. Even if it's a woman, it's still a boy in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The younger they are, the more tragic it is.
Or like flip that on its head, the ghost of a Nazi.
Yo, man, what does it matter what he was when he was dead? The motherfucker's still dead, ain't he?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay,
Breaking
I
Bad,
think
Skinny
we've
Pete.
exhausted this now.
Yeah. I think in terms of like the what are I guess some advantages of ghosts as antagonists, as well as ghosts as victims? I don't know if we necessarily covered that. We covered like what they are and kind of what might be some problems, but what might be some advantages to ghosts as victims or ghosts as
Well,
antagonists.
the unique thing about horror in general, now I feel like there's a difference between scary and horror movies, which I guess we can talk about on Tuesday, but basically the unique thing that horror offers is that if you're trying to explore the darkness of the human soul, or if you're trying to explore dark themes, a monster or a ghoul or whatever, a otherworldly entity that embodies that is a very appropriate tool. So like the monster from The Thing, Alien, The Witch, these sorts of things.
And it's fairly easy to find something in mythology that matches what you're trying to do.
Oh yeah, and you don't have to dig through mythology. I mean,
No,
the
but
alien from
mythology is the
Alien is
easiest
a
thing.
completely new invention. Dracula, Frankenstein, they all represent some aspect of humanity that we'd rather leave covered, and they pull that out. So as far as ghouls or ghosts as antagonists, the benefit that you get is that they're pulling something out of you that you would rather leave uncovered. And they pulled out better because they, as themselves, are a representation of that. Whereas you could have like Hannibal or something, where he's a representation of something, but he's not a monster that inherently represents this negative aspect of humanity that leaves you with a sickening feeling. So a ghost as antagonist done properly would inherently represent some negative aspect of humanity that leaves you sick at the end of the movie.
Kind of like how the ghosts of Hill House are basically like humanity's possessiveness and kind of the fear of losing your children taken to a very toxic extreme.
Have not seen it, but yes, that sounds like a prime example.
Mm-hmm.
So the witch, obviously, in the witch represents the distension. That's not the word. The disconnection between standing up for your rights and also your principles facing the wilderness. Like, what are your principles if society is not there? And the alien, I'm not going to go in the alien. That's pretty hard. The Thing represents how can you ever truly trust a person, because you never know what's going on inside there. It's a representation of the theme in and of itself. Its behavior is the theme.
Very nice. I like it.
Sorry, I keep going on extended rants.
Oh no, you're fine. It's totally fine. I enjoy it. It's very, very enlightening, to say the least. I think with an antagonist like a ghost, it's very much an antagonist where you have to be creative in terms of defeating it. Usually it's related to giving the ghost some kind of peace. Ghostbusters does the kind of action thing where they destroy the palace of Gozer so that they can send their ghost butt packing.
Or more traditionally, they capture the ghost in the trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but that's a mechanical means by which to beat the ghosts. Is I think what he's trying to get at.
Yeah, because it's a science versus technology story if you're going through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically, as far as ghosts as antagonists go, the means by which you defeat it or fail to defeat it in traditionally horror, you fail to defeat it. So the means by which you attempt to defeat it is what the story is about. So, for example, if you can't defeat it, the story is about why can't you defeat it? I can't defeat it because I can't see it. I can't defeat it because I'm not strong enough, sort of thing. So, traditionally in a story, the antagonist represents basically the antithesis of the protagonist, or at least it represents the goal over which he must overcome. So, if we're talking about a ghost, kind of what you have to do is you can't defeat it. It's not something you can touch. It's ethereal. So part of what that enables in the narrative is your inability to do something, your inability to recognize humanity, your inability to affect your own future, your inability to apply principles to your life. It's taking something away from you. So the fact that it's ethereal is taking an element away from your humanity.
Just because
it's showing what you can't do
doesn't mean you can't win. It's like, to borrow a 40K term, play the mission. Just because you can't defeat the ghost doesn't mean you can't do something else. Like traditionally,
you definitely can win, and like in scary movies, traditionally you do win. There's always kind of like a but did you sort of element at the end. But as far as horror is concerned, usually you don't win. In scary movies, yeah, you do win, but the quote unquote twist at the end is but did you? So it kind of depends upon the story that you are trying to tell. And if you're trying to reveal the inadequacies of humans, which is, to me, what horror typically is, then usually you don't win.
Or maybe you discover the inadequacy of the humans and you escape the horror just by the skin of your teeth, live to tell the tale.
Yes, but
if you don't live to tell the tale, then what's the point?
Yeah, to me that's more of a scary movie. So like Nightmare on Elm Street, fucking Jason, what's it called? Halloween. Like, yes, someone escapes. Anaconda, that's a fucking terrible movie. You do escape, but by the skin of your teeth. And to me, that's more of a thriller or a scary movie or a spooky movie. But to me, horror is about the fundamental failure of a human.
Lots of things could be about the fundamental failure of a human. It's just how.
But horror, you get a monster that represents it. Oh, so good.
You can do that in all sorts of genres too. Like action can be all about that sort of thing. I mean, Die Hard.
But he succeeds.
Well, I think that kind of what he's gonna like. I think one example might be The Haunting of Bly Manor, where she wins temporarily. Spoilers for the end of Bly Manor. The girl who we've been following dies at the very end as a result of bringing the ghost into her head.
Or like a counterexample proving that this does exist outside of genre, Ajax from Deadpool. He's a very serious-laced villain in a story that is not at all in any way serious. And him dying at the end is sort of metaphorically saying that the movie is ultimately not going to take itself seriously.
Or an even older example, Ajax from the Iliad. He has a fundamental failure as a result of his anger, essentially. So I guess you could relate it to hubris in a way. Traditionally, I guess in action or in like sort of more dramatic roles, your fundamental failure leads to something, but it's not like a deep fail. So there's a difference between, oh, I'm too angry, my angry led to my downfall. It's a matter of something you can't fix. It's something within you that you can't ever pull out of you. Like ability to trust a human. You never know what's going on in a human's name or a human's mind. You never know whether or not your principles will lead to success or whether they matter in the grand scheme of things. What are principles in the face of survival, sort of thing. These are the things that horror can pull out of you. And ghosts as antagonists are, or ghosts or monsters or any sort of otherworldly creature is what pulls these fundamental failures of the human mind out of you. It's not a personal thing. It's a thing that everyone has. That's what's horrifying.
Another obstacle is the powers that the ghosts have. You have to very clearly define what the spirits in your movie or story can do.
Oh, hell yeah. Definitely soft magic is a hard thing to do properly.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to do
I'm not
wrong,
even
hard to do
talking
properly.
about magic, though. I'm talking about what the ghosts themselves can do, not what a magical person dealing with the ghost can do.
I was referring to ghosts as magical. Perhaps the word would be otherworldly.
Yeah, I think like what you're kind of going for is what powers do, since we're out of the ordinary realm of humans and our world, we need to clearly define like what the rules governing the ghosts are like, and kind of the best way to put it is what is the magic system of the ghosts in this world.
Yeah.
As far as horror is concerned, it's basically what powers or capabilities does the ghost have that humans cannot possibly poss.
Yes, like I was saying before the stream in the office, basically, you have to get around you always have to get around the initial plot hole of people die all the time. Well, why is this scenario unique?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this person who died special, whereas everybody else who died presumably not?
What does it mean for
most
the character?
Of the ghosts as antagonists are going to be more often than not poltergeists.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think one example is actually they actually do explain the ghost thing in Haunting at Bly Manor, where this lady died in the in the early 18th century or late 18th century around. And what happened to her was she was so stubborn that she refused to die and said, "Nope, I ain't dying yet." And the problems arose when kind of she started killing people, and because of her like almost spiritual gravitational force, she kept keeping people in this place, and they slowly lost their identities and their individuality as they stuck around there. And that was
woman
kind of like,
literally too angry to die.
Yeah, I thought Doom Guy too.
Yeah.
So now done, why are those two things? How are those two things related? Why is she stealing their soul, their life force, because she refused to die?
Well, actually, it's not. It's actually just like the ghost. Like basically, it's just like she. Part of it is she loses her identity. She kind of just makes the walk all the way up from the river to look at the to try and look at her daughter, but then she eventually sees, oh, the child is gone, and basically like all that she has eventually is just like keep going up the stairs, keep going back, and if somebody gets in her way at night, she will take them by the throat and drag them into the lake.
Ryan Johnson, pay attention. There's not a boy in the wall. This is subversion.
This
Yeah.
is how it's done correctly.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
yeah, I see what you mean. It's more so that she just has no purpose, and her
Mhm.
lack of purpose is what's basically killing people. So again, as an antagonist, the ghost is the representation of a, in this instance, is a lack of purpose, and a lack of purpose killing people. So
Mhm.
that's the physical part, but the metaphorical part is obviously in and of ourselves, a lack of purpose, a lack of ability to define ourselves is what kills other people. That echo, that sickness pulls other people down. So once again, good horror is, as far as a ghost as an antagonist, is about fundamental failings as a human being.
Mm. And like a lot of these ghosts, like Peter, a guy named Peter Quint, like he doesn't want to die, and so he's kind of stuck around he's stuck around and is able to interact to a certain extent, but he doesn't want to be alone, so he has his girlfriend kill herself so that he won't be alone in this house. And
Yes.
sometimes there's a thing where basically sometimes they are forced into a dream state where they are kind of stuck in a memory of their own.
Solipsism.
Yeah. And because of that, it's basically his moment is the moment where his mom asked him for money, which led him to try and steal money from the house so that he could pay off the debt. And that's kind of led him to that. And other moments like and kind of like just living those moments, like kind of they describe it as being wrapped up in a memory where they are just kind of stuck in that one moment for a little bit of time, and then they can come out, but they're stuck there until the memory plays itself out.
So one of them, the man who needed to borrow money and thus stole, seems as though it's a inability to perform the fundamental, I guess you could say, purpose, the fundamental genetic prerogative of hang on, this fucking screensaver's about to hit the corner. Ah, fucking missed. To fulfill the fundamental male prerogative as an individual, which is to provide. Whereas what was the second portion? So after the guy had to borrow money and died because of it.
Yeah. Well, the thing was he was trying to find he tried to like he was I think he was trying to let me think, I can't remember how he died. Basically, I think he was like he was about to leave with his girlfriend that night, but unfortunately the ghost lady grabbed him just as she was wandering in the house and killed him.
Right, but there was this. That's very interesting. But what was the second element that you were speaking about beyond the man stealing that led to his
Basically,
death?
he got stuck. Basically, he's stuck.
No. You were talking about another set of circumstances.
Um, can't remember actually.
That's fine.
Oh, maybe I'll look back. But I think like with maybe is it the memory, like being wrapped up in the memories?
Yes, solipsism.
Yeah.
Solipsism is also another fundamental element of human failure.
Yeah.
It's basically depression. Solipsism is almost depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very much the case here, where for the kids, these people will actually possess the kids on occasion. The ghosts will possess the kids, specifically the Peter Quint and his girlfriend Rebecca. But the thing is, generally when they possess them, they'll actually wrap the kids up in a positive memory of their family that have just died, and that's kind of why the kids keep allowing them to do this. And then sometimes the ghost will just kind of be pulled into basically it's kind of a hellish existence where like sometimes they can move around and they can't move beyond the boundaries of Bly Manor, but then they'll kind of be like stuck. Any person who dies will basically just be stuck, kind of like repeat a memory on occasion. Will kind of vanish.
God, they're a boy in the wall.
A little bit, yeah. But they're kind of stuck there by virtue of the Lady in the Lake's gravitational pull. And they're finally released at the end when the Lady at the Lake is pacified and enters a different body. And the body of that person, she slowly like starts seeing the Lady in the Lake everywhere. And eventually she has no choice but to go to Bly Manor and walk into the water and drown herself and die.
So it seems like the theme is the fundamental inability to control one's fate.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I really love Haunting at Bly Manor. Haunting at Bly Manor was like excellent stuff. But it wasn't just horror, it was kind of just the layering of the twists was very engaging to me personally. I think that kind of talks a lot about like ghosts as antagonists. You can either have them be passive or active antagonists, and usually kind of like ghosts as like environmental antagonists, like kind of the ghosts in Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor as well, and or they can kind of be the active antagonists, like the ghosts in Ghostbusters are examples of this,
or the witch in The Witch. Yeah, I hadn't considered that active versus passive. That's a very interesting take.
You know what? I actually caught this as we were rewatching Ghostbusters the other day. Remember what the how Gozer actually comes into play in the story? It was after World War I, the architect of the building where Gozer would eventually touch down decided that humanity was so diseased that it couldn't survive and shouldn't survive any longer. So he built this building that basically acts as Gozer's shrine to invoke Gozer to come down and destroy the world.
That reminds me of a story that I can't remember the name of, but yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Every
really
Final Fantasy ever. Humanity is diseased, and therefore the best way to wipe out the disease is to eradicate humanity. Humanity suffers.
Partially
kill
like
everyone.
That's more about life and about balance, quote unquote. Even though instead of wiping out half of existence, he could just produce double resources.
Don't get me started on Thanos. God damn.
But yeah, the hatred of humanity, misanthropy, is definitely a interesting concept that is very explorable by monsters, particularly ghosts.
This is accurate because at the very end, it's very much like it is kind of told through the girl who dies as X perspective. Spoilers for, well, that's not really a spoiler. It's just kind of like a little neat thing, but it's a really interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
No. I thought you were done the second time as well. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. No,
Oh.
I am done, but I am also finished. With my thought.
Oh, you fucking nerd. But
Anyway.
yes, a love story very well can be a horror story. The inability for or like the catastrophe that inevitably falls upon loved ones when the other dies. There's the inability to find love. There's a million things you can do with the concept of love where you can pervert it to show how there's a failure in that. And the inherent the failure that accompanies love is a very terrifying thing. That like whatever failures there are, you know that's happened to a 1,000 people.
Like
Go ahead, Drake. Sorry.
Doki Doki Literature Club.
I've never heard of that.
It's basically what you described.
Hooray!
Yeah, I think you definitely, in terms of what is it? I think with you could even have somebody is trying to bring back their lost loved one because they can't accept death, and kind of they're trying their best to try and bring back the person they love, and that would go into Ghosts as kind of like either victims or plot point.
Yeah, I can't recall a specific example, but yeah, it's always like when you try to bring back a person who's dead, it always seems to pervert the person as an individual. It's never the same.
Well,
person.
the only movie where I don't see that happening is Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I think of the Elrics from Full Metal something something. Damn it!
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes.
I don't know if Casper the Friendly Ghost qualifies as horror.
Well, no, but you were talking about how bringing the dead person back always makes them lose something.
Fair enough.
And Casper was the first one I thought of that does not happen in.
I think one idea is, I think with that one, it's basically an angel comes down and says, "Hey, you can be a boy until 10. You can be a real boy
I love
until
your angel
10.
voice.
Thank you. But yeah, it's just that kind of like, you may be a little boy, and here's the time limit that you can be a real boy for your good actions. You don't get to come back to life. You can even float, but you are still dead at the end of the night."
They float.
They fly now? They fly now.
Yeah. I need to clip that at some point. That's amazing. But yeah, we do. I think that's pretty much. Yes, actually, the Mummy is actually kind of an example of like a corporeal ghost.
Well, doesn't the Mummy try to bring back his wife? Like he's a ghost himself, and he tries to bring back his loved one.
Well, he's basically like a zombie that strips the life from other people and then revitalizes himself, and then revitalizes his tries to revitalize his dead loved one.
Yeah, something like that. Do you remember when Brendan Fraser existed?
Yeah, I miss that guy. I'm kind of sad that Inkheart was so bad.
I haven't seen it. I didn't even know he had like a new thing.
Well, Inkheart is like 2013, 2012-ish. It's a long time ago.
Now that's scary.
Yeah.
The fundamental failure of Brendan Fraser to be a human. Very scary.
The fundamental Frasier of us to all keep living.
Fundamental
Yeah.
Frasier. I feel like that should be on tropes.com or tvtropes.com.
I guess so.
Hmm.
So now kind of going into the last one before we get into Q&A. Ghosts as allies. You can kind of mix this in with ghosts as protagonists, but also ghosts as victims, because both fit here, I think. Where you have this ethereal force that like is trying to help the protagonist somehow, but usually it has some kind of problem, like they scare the protagonist, like in Crimson Peak, or they're like the finding of the identity in Casper, I guess you could say.
Like angels in the Bible, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
I love how they got turned into babies, whereas they're like 40 wings, 30 eyes, 20 limbs, sort of shit.
Yeah, you wouldn't confuse them for you'd confuse them for a Shoggoth.
Like every time an angel appears in the Bible, it's just like, holy fuck, what the fuck is that?
Literally, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And it's very telling that the first thing they often say is "fear not."
It's like, I know that I am a fucking horrifying monstrosity, but trust me, I have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, how the seraphim are described in Isaiah is freaking Lovecraftian weirdness. It's like they look like Nyarlathotep, how Nyarlathotep is described.
Sorry, I'm unfamiliar with that. Go ahead.
Nyarlathotep.
It's Cthulhu mythos.
Oh, yeah.
He's
sadly
basically
uneducated.
Oh, I am very uneducated too. I just know about Nyarlathotep because of analysis of Lovecraft, where he's basically this like pharaoh type with 6 wings.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Where do you think Lovecraft got that?
Only 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6
He's one of
wings,
the more-
2 to fly, 2 to cover their face, 2 to cover their feet, and 2 to fly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he's very much he's one of the less out there Lovecraft deities, and he's usually a trickster. He's kind of the Kadesh story. I can't remember the name. I just remember the story is this Kadesh guy. This guy is thinking about this city called Kadesh, and he's just always thinking about it. But it turns out that these this whole thing was basically a ruse to get the elder gods into his town. And it's really, really friggin' creepy.
I was not aware that there were Lovecraftian gods that were not just world eaters.
Yeah, Nyarlathotep's actually pretty unique when it comes to Lovecraftian gods, because what's most well known about Lovecraftian gods is they could give a shit whether we exist or not. Nyarlathotep is the exception. He actually is malicious to humanity.
Whereas the others were just apathetic, but their presence alone was just like beyond comprehension, and it just devoured worlds. Like
it's like, do you notice the tardigrades? I don't.
Done. You are a Magic the Gathering nerd like me. What are Eldrazi? What's the
Oh, those.
Ulamog. There's Ulamog.
Ulamog, Kozilek, and damn it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember.
Emrakul.
Ulamog,
Irmakul,
Kozilek, and Emrakul.
Yeah, Emrakul. Very
the slain by squirrels.
What is that? I fucking hate that. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to, Drake. But yeah, as far as the literary thing we're talking about, yeah, Irmakul, her power is annihilation. So her mere existence destroys life, essentially. So
yeah,
that's
she gets jammed in the moon in the end.
I think so, yeah.
Up until now, I hear they're going back to that plane.
Oh, I stopped as far as Theros and Khan's block. I spent way too much money. I don't want to talk about it.
I feel that. Me neither.
Cardboard crack. But yeah, Irmakul, her presence destroys life. So it's kind of like
warps
Is
life.
big
Lovecraftian
deal.
stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we were talking about ghosts as allies.
Yeah. In terms, with ghosts as allies, they're usually like, it's either you kind of have to walk a fine line, kind of like, and usually with ghosts as allies, definitely makes something else the antagonist, because at that point, if you have the ghost there, they are going to be something relating to they're either victims of the bad guy, or they're trying to warn the potential victim of the bad guy, or both. That's usually how ghosts as allies work. Or like, I guess Jonah Hex might be an example, specifically the movie, where this guy is able to just kind of talk to the spirits of the dead to help him to like get places, I guess, to understand what exactly is going on.
It's like a topic like this seems a perfect opportunity. I know I brought it up once already, but to bring back Shaman King. The very first arc in the series is when we find out that there are more shamans besides Yo, who's basically this this teenage stoner who's hanging out in a graveyard all the time. And there's another one who flew in from China with ridiculous, preposterous hair, and he's got Yo has the spirit of a samurai who was apparently a notorious butcher in that area, but Yo saw the better of him. And there's this other guy from China who basically got his spirit basically hand-delivered to him by his dad as like birthday present, probably. It's more explicit for his sister. But anyway, their clash in the early arc of the series is about whether or not they use their ghosts as tools or use their ghosts treat them as equals and friends. And this being a shonen anime, you could probably tell who won.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly, actually, not Yo. Yo actually lost that fight.
Interesting.
Eventually, he did win, but not for a very long time because the anime drug it out in weird directions. Yo did win in the manga, kinda. It was sort of Pyrrhic, but in the end, he was like so critically wounded that Anna had to come into the story and patch Yo back up and train him. Which was the entire point of that. It's a battle manga. What did you expect?
Yeah.
There would be all sorts of weird spirits in there. It's kind of impressive the lengths Takei went to just get spirits from all over the place. Like another spirit that you'll encounter way later in the show is Shamash, the Babylonian god.
Dang.
Oh, we love Babylonian gods. We love all Middle Eastern gods because they are all the god of war.
Pretty.
And the god of war and something else. The god of war and something else.
Yeah, like Syrian fucking God, I can't remember all the fucking empires that have like pushed each other out of the way.
Oh, and not to forget, there are angels there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Angels of war.
The
Hooray!
X-Claws. They oversoul their angels into weapons because that's how the magic system of the series eventually winds up working. And what the X-Laws use as their mediums are bullets. They fire their allies out of their guns.
I love it.
God.
That sounds.
What's the turnover rate in the Middle East as far as like BC? It's like every 50 years there's a new empire.
And it seems as there's also though, and even like the love gods like Astarte are even the love gods like Astarte are war goddesses.
Ishtar.
That's what you get for not having mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I live in Utah. We got plenty of mountains around here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But I think that's pretty. Any other thoughts on ghosts as allies? Like usually, like spirit guides, like they're kind of just like somebody who I actually did have a ghost. I've actually done this a couple times where in two different ways. One is I have in Tempest of Shadow. Basically, I have the ghosts of this one basically just residing like a voice in the head of the protagonist, being her mentor, and basically like kind of solving a lot of the issue of, okay, so she's going to be, I want to have a faster paced series, and I don't want to necessarily have that much of a training montage. Okay, I'll just have the ghost in her head basically do the magic for her, and she'll kind of be kind of more of a conduit and kind of just slowly learn and become her own person as the series goes on, was kind of the way that I did it. Was kind of the way I did that one. And then I had kind of more of a moral kind of compass ghost that's also a helper in Queen of the Ashes, which should be coming out next year, where the ghost is the protagonist of the previous book. He's just kind of been kind of locked onto this one person, and he's kind of stuck, and he just kind of just tries his best to help her, despite the fact that she is like an alcoholic. She's a bruiser, and she kind of is kind of down in the dumps. She hates life and such.
Now, go ahead.
Go for it. No, I was finished.
I feel like, so in the same way I kind of mentioned Ghost as antagonists being about the fundamental failings. Now I feel allies could be the same thing. However, I think traditionally Ghost as allies tend to be a uplifting of the failures of a human. They tend to bring out the fundamental goodness of a person. However, Ghost as allies, I'm not going to say they can't represent the failing. So you can still have a person who is on your side, who is constantly dragging you down. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. However, I feel like traditionally or typically, Ghosts as allies tend to be something that is either neutral or represents an overcoming. As far as Campbell's monomyth, it's the what is it? The meeting of the goddess. What is like step 3?
Yeah.
Step 4?
Yeah. It could also, I think another thing could possibly be like it is a person pushing the main character to be better, either through example or through as kind of a warning, or it could also be a person who is like saying like, please don't be like this, or either they were a good person in life and they're trying to pass on lessons to the current protagonist they're hitched to, or it's a bad person trying to tell the good guy, please don't be like this, like be something better than I was.
Right. The ethereal nature of a ghost inherently kind of lends itself to the representation of an aspect of humanity.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. All right. Now the Q&A.
I'm sorry I talked so much. I was kind of talked a lot.
Oh no, it's totally happy to have you. Thank you.
You have the time for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have. This was relatively short. It was only like an hour and 24 minutes. We got to cover like quite a bit of ground.
It's about done bedtime.
I wish it was, but I got Smugcast in about 15 minutes.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah. But now we get to move on. Yeah, Christmas Carol. That's a good example, but that's a Christmas story. Now that we're in the Q&A, we can kind of go into short man bad. Are we going to cover Christmas stuff? I think we might cover a couple Christmas stuff. The Christmas genre is not as wide sprawling as the horror genre, so I don't think that we could.
I'm pushing for Bender's big score though.
Perhaps as far as ghost stories are concerned, but I feel like Christmas is a completely overexplored genre.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
my
there's not-
girlfriend's opinion. I don't want to steal it.
It's like Christmas Carol parodies were overdone when The Simpsons pointed it out verbatim.
Simpsons
or
did it.
it's-
Yeah, Christmas Carol Simpsons episode actually pointed out that Christmas Carol tropes are way overdone. And when The Simpsons points it out, that's how you know it's really overdone.
I
Then,
think,
then if Ellen DeGeneres catches on, then it's really, really overdone.
I
Yeah,
think
but nobody cares what Ellen DeGenerate thinks.
Ellen DeGeneres.
You've never heard that joke?
I have not. That's actually really kind of funny.
That's pretty great.
That's actually funny. I've never heard that. I like Ellen DeGeneres. Like, I think she's funny. Like, mostly like her prank stuff, but sometimes it's kind of just like overdone, I guess.
More like Ellen not generous. Am I right, guys? Ew.
Sorry. Sorry. It's really funny. Okay.
What kind of ghost would you be in the afterlife?
Um.
From Nick Brown, Man of Renown.
Has anyone seen that
I would.
preacher where there's the like I can't tell where he's from, somewhere in Africa, and he's like purging the oral rape ghost from the woman, or like the ghost keeps coming in her.
Oh god.
No, it's one of those like fake things where he like performs a fake exorcism, but everyone thinks it's real. And anyway, the ghost that keeps coming in things, that'd be me.
I'd be the guy who possesses a schmuck, makes him kill himself, and then possess another schmuck and repeat the cycle until the human race is eradicated.
I think that I'd be more like the ghosts in Crimson Peak, where they're trying to keep people safe.
I would
Not
kind of.
as creepy, but
Yeah.
that'd
No,
be what I.
Ooh, happy ending. Ooh.
I would kind of be a. I think that I would be a like obnoxious teacher ghost where I would be haunting bad writers.
Oh yes, I would want to do that too.
So Charlie Kaufman, essentially.
Yeah, I would kind of be like, don't do this. Stop doing this to Star Wars. I will make your life miserable because you do this.
And God help you if you use voiceover. That's lazy, sloppy writing.
And God help you if you use subverting of expectations stupidly.
Yeah, because
So
we've
basically,
seen
you
it
would
all
just haunt
before.
Ryan
We
Johnson.
don't need any more of
I
it.
would
Stop.
I would haunt Ryan Johnson and I would haunt Benioff and Weiss. Those would be the people I would haunt. Those.
What were you going to say, Neph? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, I'd be a combination of a protective spirit and a spirit that goes, don't do that.
No, I would just come everywhere with my ectoplasm.
Oh, so you did mean it in that context.
That's what I thought.
He slimed me.
I guess in life as in death.
Well, you gotta do this stuff somehow. But yeah, that's kind of what I would be. Like, I would be Charlie Kaufman. I think maybe I would help good writers probably as well.
Yeah.
What haunted house? Oh.
Real quick, my girlfriend said she'd just be a ghost that knocks things over. Just tries to psychologically fuck with people.
I would psychologically
move your keys, move the remote.
I would psychologically screw with Ryan Johnson and Benioff and Weiss, and probably Who else do I hate? I would also screw with the movie reviewers like Patrick.
Yeah.
No,
It would be
literally
fun to
be
do
the
that.
person who just moves keys and remotes.
I think that'd be kind of another thing that I would do. There's something else that I would like to do.
Whenever anybody builds a gunpla, I will take the piece that falls on the floor.
Haunted house would I survive in? That's a very good question. I would I think the haunting one for sure, because the haunting house with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Liam Neeson, that's easy to survive because it's basically just impossible to die in that.
As long as bullets, head kicks, and running away work, I will survive all of them.
As long as fire works.
Yeah, just burn that shit. Why don't we burn more haunted houses?
Well,
They need a little bit of vitamin G.
well, I'd move out as soon as I figured out the house was haunted.
Right? Why is that why is that never happened?
I don't know, but then again, I'm smarter than most horror characters.
Isn't everyone?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Let's see, any other questions?
Oh, that is an excellent ghost. Taking the left sock of each pair of socks.
That would be fun.
You will sow chaos, disorient spirit signs, and steal everyone's left shoe.
Truly chaotic evil.
Yep. Indeed. Any other questions that we want to answer?
Are there any more questions?
I would be the ghost that makes blankets too hot.
That's actually a fun question to answer. Is just what kind of ghost would you be? I can't think of anything else. But I would love to just be like a poltergeist screwing around with douchebag writers.
I'd be the one you have to call Ghostbusters on.
I already said I'm Slimer.
No, Slimer's not actually malicious. He's just kind of a glutton.
Right, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Just eating food and gooing on everyone.
Yeah, I'm more the rat spirit.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Let me think. I think that's how spooky is the Halloween game gonna be? I don't know.
I'm not looking forward to that. If it's spooky.
Well, I don't think we're gonna watch Halloween.
Halloween? Is that actually something that you were referring to? Is that a typo?
I think that's probably a typo. I have no idea.
Yeah, Halloween I think
clarify.
is a thing though.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those cliche titles. Egon Spangler.
Now, I know it's supposed to be hell, but I just imagine Halloween as just walking up and trick-or-treating, but saying just hello to everyone and walking away.
We can answer it again. I don't think so. Basically, I don't know if it's like Christmas themed because Christmas has very limited stuff. It's basically either you set it during Christmas, or it falls into Christmas Carol, or It's a Wonderful Life scenarios. Those are pretty much the three types of like Christmas things that I've seen.
And those get boring after a while.
Or the Santa in like legal trouble or something like that.
Yeah, like Miracle
Miracle
on
on something.
31st Street, I think.
34.
34.
Miracle on Rule 34.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I don't know if like we could get that much material out of it. Sword made out of
This is a question for the Knife Channel.
A sword made out of ghost. That's basically Yo Asakura's final weapon in Shaman King, is literally a sword made out of ghost.
The dude made a knife out of fucking eggs, so...
I'm pretty sure there's a ghost Pokemon that's also a sword.
Yeah, that's Honedge.
Mm-hmm.
So that answers your question.
Yeah, that's kind of just all that it seems like the like all Christmas movies kind of fall into that line of thinking, is either It's a Wonderful Life,
Christmas Carol.
Carol, or it's set during Christmas, like Home Alone, Die Hard, etc.
Bender's Big Score.
Bender's Big Score, yeah. And kind of like It's a Wonderful Life parodies are all over the place. It's ridiculous. I think that's pretty much. I think that's what Ghost Casper. He doesn't do anything. He's rather
Again, I would be the guy who moves remotes.
Well, what ghost would you want haunting your house?
Oh, not the one who moves remotes. That'd be the worst.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm with you,
What?
Casper.
The one who puts remotes in the right spot.
What's the most helpful fictional ghost I can think of?
Now, you would say Casper, but Casper is annoying as fuck.
Yeah, God, no. I
like
discounted him first.
Man, there's a new Neph pun that's been created. Nepholatry. Nepholatry.
Nephilepsy?
Nepholatry. I think that's Neph, the idolatry cult of Neph F champion, I guess.
My girlfriend had a pretty good answer. It's Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. Then you basically just have a dog.
Yeah.
That's not a bad one.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Trying to think if there are any like anime ghosts, like that kind of anime. Nope, can't think of any. The least none that I could disclose here.
Well, the one I'd want would be, let's see, Ichigo from Bleach, actually.
Cool.
Because he turns into a ghost to fight. He's like ghost half the time.
That works. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for having a good stream. This is very, very cool. We got a lot more material out of this than I thought we would.
Yami Yugi. That way I would never lose a game. I knew I'd find one.
Yeah, because Yami Yugi essentially has impenetrable plot armor that will never, ever allow him to lose unless he's using the power of the
Yeah,
I think
you mean
only
duel that is canon?
lost.
I think if
And that was
interrupting were a
Ron
professional
Patel.
sport, I would be a gold medalist.
Is the Undertaker a ghost?
I guess so. Yeah.
I guess
He
John
might
Cena
fall
is
into
too,
the
because
rabbit.
you can't see him. Bum, ba, ba.
Alrighty. Well, we will call that good for today. Thank you all for coming. And one last thing must be said, and that is...
Go! we're going.
Bye, guys.